There's nothing else quite like video games in a slow period, because on the rare occasion there isn't a well-marketed AAA game or 5 dropping, say the post-holidays, the collective gamers will still grab hold of a newly released title and give it mainstream attention. Case in point, the latest sleeper hit, Quarantine Zone: The Last Check, shot past free-to-play heavy hitters Marvel Rivals and Where Winds Meet on the Steam charts. But it's also available on Xbox Game Pass, although sorry console gang, this one is strictly on PC. Well, after several hours of procedural horror, I've collected my own notes to report the highs and lows to help you decide if Quarantine Zone: The Last Check is for you, including a special heads up for controller and Steam Deck users. Yes, I've sent many innocent people to their deaths and experimented on civilians for the betterment of society, because this game is all about power. No, not the usual kind of video game power, but the weight of responsibility that gives you the ultimate blame. And rather than observing from afar and dry strategy, you're right in the first-person perspective with every cough, every odd discolorization or oozing crimson fluids must be noted eye to sympathetic eye. What sort of outbreak could cause the fall of society? Why, it's that zombie apocalypse again. But you won't be spending your time blasting away the undead. Well, mostly. You'll be standing over the camps as the head commander, making sure the food, energy, and medicine continues to flow unimpeded. But the majority of your daily responsibilities center around the entry checkpoint. Here you'll personally inspect each individual, checking off their symptoms and ultimately deciding their fate. With all apologies to humanitarians, you can't save everybody. In fact, more lives will be lost if you pass an infected person into the camps, eventually turning and attacking sleeping survivors. Thankfully, new technology and medical discoveries are breaking every few days, although this produces more complex and invasive procedures to perform, including a handheld MRI with a cavity search mechanic complete with horrific scream. Ew. But it beats the alternative of sending an innocent person to liquidation. Not only is the government expecting a quota of workers to export, and besides the cash penalty, it's just plain depressing to watch a confused person walk to their doom. Although arguably they're better off than some sent to quarantine. Yeah, the life and death decisions are given a new tinge of purgatory with mandatory detainment, and this is where the real gray area begins. Remember all those symptoms? Those are purely listed in your notes, so here's hoping you check the right eye color, otherwise you might believe someone is getting sicker and ready for purge. Big deal, they're still getting room and board, right? Well, you still want to use this area sparingly, because otherwise, when you really can't tell if someone is infected or not, they'll turn into a zombie and rip everyone to pieces. Whoops! Don't be too sad, because the government could always use an extra undead to experiment on, and yes, like a new pet owner, you'll be expected to feed them human bodies every morning. Yeesh! And that's what makes Quarantine Zone so evocative. It keeps asking more of the player to dehumanize the people in front of them, because eventually you'll uncover an obvious ailment that's yet to be discovered, but studies require vivisection. The live surgery minigame even encourages players to master their organ destruction in record time before creating a sample. If you like to wince and cringe while playing a game, this current version will leave a strong impression. And, well, I have a few questions about what state the game is currently in. I didn't notice any early access note anywhere, but way up in that corner we can see what looks to be a 0.9 pre-release state. And no offense to Breakout Games, but I'm hopeful all this attention and sales mean updates can really tie this game together, because the core concepts are legitimately compelling. There's just a few technical things holding it back in the short run and some larger issues in the long run. But if you take a look at the Steam page, the developer's already hard at work creating hot fixes for several widespread issues. Personally speaking, I'm glad to hear they resolved that pesky crouching problem. To get a grasp of how Quarantine Zone would function on a home console and handheld PCs like the Steam Deck or Xbox Rogue Ally X, I split my time between mouse and controller and keyboard. Sadly, there's no two ways around it. The controller implementation is incomplete. Unless I'm missing something here, there's absolutely no way to access resource replenishment and upgrades for your base divisions with the controller. I've tried button mashing, but even the tutorials have caused some odd glitches like getting lost in a corner. If you're good with using Steam Deck and mouse analog controls, I would say you're better off there than you would be with the official controls. Like sometimes the UI straight up recommends a trigger when it means a button. Not a deal breaker, but it could all use another pass. Truthfully, it still feels a bit alpha, even if the general look and feel is lightly touched Unreal Engine 5 assets. For example, there's a firearm that you're given to fight off angry survivors and other threats. No, I wasn't expecting any sort of advanced combat. Even the wall defense minigame is only a brief distraction. That's obviously not what the game is going for. But there isn't a button to reload on the pistol, which is rather odd because there's a whole button devoted to jumping. And I'm not exactly sure why, because jumping so far serves no purpose beyond occasionally correcting some scripting collisions with guard NPCs. It all just feels a bit fresh out of the engine box. Don't get me wrong, I still spent 8 hours in the main story and some extra time for the endless campaign. I've enjoyed my time, but yes, I found the UI to be a bit too sluggish and buggy. I also appreciate the way the game freely connects from one event to the next like a grimdark farming simulator, but sometimes it feels like bugs crop up when you're switching back and forth, like when I inexplicably lost the ability to sprint. I don't know. Also, I haven't really brought it up because it's so ineffective, but you constantly receive ratings on your inspections. I couldn't tell you what makes a good or bad one. I've gone so far to send off survivors with unchecked issues and getting a good rating, or going through everything with a fine-tooth comb and getting a bad one. Maybe I'm missing the nuance, but I'm not finding anything in the tutorials, and the end results usually say I got it correct. Go figure. As for the graphics, I really appreciate how difficult it is to tell if someone is sick, has a certain complexion, or is infected. It's a risky move to make something like this with realistic graphics. In fact, the only comparison I can really make is to the now decade-old Papers, Please, a great little indie game with abstract cartoon visuals. Just like that game, there isn't a clear-cut way to judge from a person's face, but it feels like Quarantine Zone should be a bit more expressive with connection to their state. Most people are sad, angry, or just kinda there and sneezing. A reasonable reaction to entering a depressing camp. But even when someone is gunned down, people just kinda hang out until the body goes boop and vanishes. It could all use a little more refinement. But if you can overlook these issues and have a keyboard and mouse handy, I'd say Quarantine Zone is absolutely worth a download on Game Pass. As for a full sale, I'm holding off until I see a clearer picture for the development roadmap, because as it is, this is an addictive little procedural game with an extra disturbing edge. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead, World War Z, or any number of hyper-detailed zombie apocalypses, this is right up your alley. It's always kinda creepy and sad, real moody like good zombie fiction. What little world building there is here, such as the daily objectives, hints at a world gone mad, where even the darkest of times still has the basic issues of work-related problems, confiscating weapons, or discovering body parts in the backpack of that serial killer you've been hearing about. Liquidate the right one, and that's an extra grand towards updates. In some ways, it reminds you of Schedule 1, a smaller game that blows up on Steam, and regardless of its issues, players agree there's something special here, even if it hasn't quite gotten there yet. But that's why I want to chat back with you. Head over to the comments and let me know if you played Quarantine Zone the last check and what you thought of it, or if you plan on picking it up during these dry few weeks. Keep clicking around here at GameRant.com, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.